Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. I am back with the finale of What If Deku had an item enhancement quirk. Sorry that it took so long to make the finale. Well, I kind of got caught up, as y'all know, with other What Ifs, and when I get in the zone on different What Ifs, you guys know me, I kind of just like deep dive into them, and that's all I want to do. But yeah, with that said, all good. We are here for the finale, and we'll get into right where we left off. As always, if you enjoy, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff, and let's get right into the What If. Let's get it. Izuku has worked with both Melissa and Bakugo for a good amount of time to try and figure out what they want personally for support items. On top of that, he used all of the repertoire he possibly could to enhance them to effectively neutralize one All Might. The fact is, he was told who his opponent would be, or their opponent would be, and his test is to stop that said opponent. Yes, he was given arguably the hardest, if by far the hardest, opponent out there, but still, he feels that he can get the job done. What he feels with All Might is that he is slowing down to an extent. He's seen it personally. I mean, All Might obviously isn't the same person he was a long time ago. Izuku counts that All Might used to basically be out and about patrolling or stopping villains 8 to 12 hours a day. Now, if you are lucky to see a sighting of All Might, that was very, very different in the past, which must mean he's slowing down. So what would happen if you slowed down All Might even more? That's exactly what he wants to do. He works with Melissa to more or less create these items that would more likely or not slow down All Might using some sort of slowness effect, giving that like chill factor, and when the body temperature begins to fluctuate, All Might would definitely feel its effects. Izuku would feel its effects more, or would have more effect on the battle than he would possibly really imagine. He wouldn't realize that in doing this, it would affect All Might drastically more than what he even expected. So when Melissa and Bakugo begin to shoot out and more or less fight All Might with the punches that Melissa lands, it seems that it more or less stacks this ice effect around All Might, and when an explosion lands, it does the same thing. On top of that, giving All Might this passive kind of poison, but it's more like anesthesia or like anesthetic, more or less forcing All Might to be a little bit more groggy. In doing all of these things, it effectively slows down All Might. Those muscle fibers that would be super quick and more or less would allow him to throw blows and punches so quickly would begin to slow down drastically, and eventually it would be shown that All Might would be on the back foot. All Might was getting beat by Melissa and Bakugo. Yes, Melissa has the power of one All Might herself, but still, the combination of the support items, the combination of some awkward teamwork from Melissa and Bakugo, being that Bakugo doesn't really like teaming up with anybody, so it kind of looks a bit awkward when they're fighting, it actually throws All Might off, leading to him actually being taped with the capture tape, and they win. Not on escaping, but on beating All Might himself. Bakugo, in a way, is still not satisfied, but that's just Bakugo doing Bakugo things. They obviously had a great plan going in, and Izuku passes his own exam with flying colors. He's happy to see that both Melissa and Bakugo did well, and Melissa would even come up to him and would more or less sing his praises, talking about how it felt like the battle was over before it even started. It seemed like Izuku analyzed everything to a T. Izuku says that he's getting better at that. He's slowly but surely gaining more and more experience, and the more experience he more or less knows, or the more experience he has, the better his items will get in terms of the skill factor of his items, in terms of the additional effects, in terms of the strength enhancement of his own items, and so on and so forth. Melissa is just flat out impressed, saying that they're going to be working together for a long time, and she just knows that for sure. He's going to have success far beyond just UA. It's going to be an outreach of so many different things. Izuku smiles and thanks her and more or less commends her as well, that the support items are nothing without the person who's using them. He thanks her for the compliments and tells her to go celebrate with her class, as he's going to go get his grade from his teacher. He heads back, and Power Loader, of course, is extremely impressed. He says that he approached things amazing, far better than he even would have. That ironically enough, he would definitely have a job in the future if he wanted to teach support kids as well at UA. Izuku smiles and says maybe in his older years he would definitely consider that, but right now he's on to the future of more or less just supplying support items to anybody. And he continues to do this with some time and downtime off. He does spend that with, resting and hanging out with the family, hanging out with his mother and stuff like that. But he also takes his time where Class 1A is completely gone, including Class 1B is gone. He takes his time to actually just make support items for different agencies, mainly actually Sir Night-Eye's agency. He continues to work with them, and he even gets in a work study earlier than you would even think, and he continues to work with them, learning more and more. And he helps with Sir Night-Eye, helps with Mirio, anybody that really needed a quirk enhancement or a support enhancement. He did just that, making people like Bubble Girl and that aren't really good at hand-to-hand combat, well, pretty good at all of their weakest points. This is something amazing for every single agency. It seems that Sir Night-Eye definitely made a good pick in Izuku, because all the support items they're getting is straight from him, and it's a more developed him. It's not the Izuku that was before UA, where he was giving support items, and yes, they were strong, but these are a whole nother level. You can tell that the experience and the knowledge Izuku has gained has increased the wealth of more or less the items he creates. His items are so much better than ever before. They're higher strength in terms of statistics, and they even make people stronger by multiple times over. Izuku even is able to add multiple effects: slow duration, strength enhancement, fire whittling, anything you can think of, an effect that they could put on somebody else, a villain in a fight, would be Izuku's more or less forte. He would do just that. But after a bit of working with Sir Night-Eye, and after a bit of time or downtime, eventually Class 1A and Class 1B would arrive back at UA. But that's not all. A bunch of them are actually in the hospital. This would concern Izuku. He wonders what even occurred, but he learns through the grapevine that it was actually an attack from the villains, and that Katsuki Bakugo himself was captured. Now this would concern Izuku, but not for the fact that Bakugo is going to get more or less transferred over to the dark side or the villain side, but it's more concern of Bakugo's well-being. On top of that, the support items Bakugo has himself could be used for horrible things. Izuku would never want that to occur. But still, Izuku begins to think, what's the best way of going about things, and how are they going to find him? Supposedly though, there's a tracker, and Izuku hears of this, and he tells them that he wants to supply all of the heroes that are going in for a fight with as many support items as they need. He'll even revamp their hero outfits to include better enhancements, more or less allowing them to be even stronger than before. Izuku wants to do this to make sure that, well, his old childhood friend is safe. I mean, yes, they've never been on amazing terms, but still, he wants to make sure he's good. He's not going to just allow Bakugo to, well, just kick the bucket. He refuses to let that happen. So he helps as much as he possibly can, creating items for people like All Might, Endeavor, Best Genius, anybody you could really think of, even Gran Torino, and he helps everybody you possibly can imagine, and they are ready for their raid on this villain base, and they immediately are able to kind of seize all the villains. And with the support items and some of the captive support items that Izuku gives them, they're actually able to send all of those villains off to prison instantaneously. A support item that Izuku's been working on for a while that would basically put all of them away within prison pretty quickly, actually limiting them entirely and not allowing them to even escape in general. So he immediately would put them all into prison, and All For One really wouldn't have anything to say about it. But the advantage still would lie with the villains. You might think that's a bit crazy to think about, but All For One is one hell of a tricky person, teleporting Bakugo away and also bringing everybody and pushing everybody away to force All Might into a bit of a 1 versus 1 scenario. But Izuku is watching this, and while he's watching this, he kind of gets this like eerie feeling. He wants to help All Might somehow, some way, but he personally can't go out and do that. That is dangerous. It could get himself killed. Yes, he's not afraid of death. He's not afraid of going out and helping somebody and dying for it, but there's a big difference to throwing your life away and then being prepared for something. He begins to think and think until he remembers. He looks at his phone, and Mei Hatsume has texted him, confirming his suspicion and his idea. Mei is the key. Not exactly her, but something they've been making. Izuku would immediately walk into the lab, and this fight between All For One and All Might is still brewing. He would tell Mei that they can help All Might now. She refuses to allow him to put on the suit and go fight All For One. That's insane. The suit may be strong, but he doesn't even really have a quirk. Yes, he has a support quirk. He's going to get himself killed. Izuku shakes his head and immediately touches the suit. As the suit is touched, it turns into this small little ring. Izuku says he's been working on this for a while, tells her not to worry, and puts the ring on himself. He immediately would run outside as he pushes the ring out, of more or less pushing the ring forward, and he goes into the suit instantaneously. He flies off, and Mei can think that he's going to get himself hurt. But Izuku's only doing this to get to the location he needs to get to faster. Izuku would arrive, and he would face somebody right face to face. He would tell him that his disputes with All Might end here. Yes, he knows they haven't been in the best of friendships recently, but they still have a history, and he knows that he wants to protect All Might. Izuku would take off the ring and put it on Sir Night-Eye. He would tell Night-Eye to go help his friend and to go help his former main hero. He's no longer the sidekick he once was. He's now a renowned hero. So go show everybody that he's just as strong as All Might and just as important as him too. All Might at this point is losing. Even with the enhancements of Izuku, his longevity of his quirk has faltered so much, and even more than possibly in canon. Giving up One For All to Melissa, and even earlier than before, drained him so much, putting him in a position where he's sitting there in this Small Might form. But as All For One looks to finish All Might off, a suit of armor would come spiraling out of nowhere, landing a blow to All For One so hard that it sends shockwaves around them. A kick to All For One's back sends All For One spiraling down to the ground, and All Might would look in complete shock. Who is that? The mask would come up, and it's Sir Night-Eye himself. Sir Night-Eye would tell All Might that it's time for them to put their differences aside, and he apologizes for their distance recently, but this is a chance for him to help his old friend and help the person that helped him get to where he was. All Might would say that he has one last attack and that's about it, and All For One would stand, putting all of his quirks in one arm, telling them that all of this ends here and now. A suit of armor right next to All Might himself. All Might would put all the power and the last embers of One For All into his right arm, as both Sir Night-Eye and All Might himself would go charging forward to strike All For One down, hitting him with a combined United States of smash, and immediately All For One would be faltered on the ground, and the League of Villains would be seized. Were there challenges to be faced in the near future? Of course. There are always challenges for heroes. But with the captures of the League of Villains and All for One, Feld, and Izuku continuously getting stronger and stronger in terms of making everybody around him that much stronger, there may not be anything to worry about. Because the future of the pro heroes is truly in the hands of these students, and is truly in the hands of the greatest support hero to ever live, Izuku Midoriya. And that is the end of What If Deku Had an Item Enhancement Quirk. And if you enjoyed, make sure to show some love, leave a like, and leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. I hope y'all enjoyed the series, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.